Hold a stick of computer memory in your hand, and it is the least interesting object in the machine. A green sliver of plastic, a row of little black squares, no moving parts, nothing anybody brags about. For 30 years, it was the one component that always got cheaper. In the middle of last year, 32 gigabytes of it cost about $80. By the start of this year, the same kit was listing for over $400. Nothing about it had changed. Same chips, same speed, same box. Then in June, Apple raised the price of almost every computer it makes, some by $500, and had its worst day on the stock market in over a year. No factory burned down. There was no war, no tariff, no earthquake. What happened was a decision taken quietly inside 3 companies for reasons that look perfectly sensible on a spreadsheet. Start with the number because it is genuinely absurd. A mainstream 32 gigabyte memory kit, the kind that goes into an ordinary desktop, went from around $80 to about $432 in under a year. That is not inflation, and it is not a tariff. That is a 5-fold rise in the price of the most commoditized product in electronics, while the product itself got no better. To understand what happened, you need one fact about how memory is made. It does not come off the line as sticks of RAM. It comes off as wafers, thin discs of silicon about the size of a dinner plate. And every wafer a factory starts has to be assigned months ahead to one product or another. A plant can only start so many wafers a month, and building a new plant takes years. So memory is not really a market where you order more and more arrives. It is a queue. And over the last 2 years, somebody very large walked to the front of it. What walked to the front of the queue is called HBM. High bandwidth memory. It is the specialized memory stacked next to the processor inside an artificial intelligence accelerator, and it is made from the same silicon in the same plants by the same 3 companies that make the memory in your laptop. Per gigabyte, HBM swallows roughly 3 times the wafer area of ordinary DDR5, and it earns its maker somewhere between 3 and 5 times as much money per wafer. So the arithmetic is not subtle. This year, high bandwidth memory is taking about 23% of the world's entire supply of memory wafers, up from around 19% the year before. It yields only about 8% of the actual memory, measured in bits, because stacking chips vertically wastes so much of the wafer. But it brings in close to a third of the industry's revenue. Fewer bits, far more money. And the appetite on the other side is hard to picture. One of NVIDIA's flagship AI racks carries around 20 terabytes of this memory. That is roughly 1,200 laptops worth in a single cabinet in one row in one building, of which there are now thousands going up. Every one of those cabinets is memory that never became anything you could buy. Most coverage calls this a shortage, as if something broke. Nothing broke. Samsung, SK hynix, and Micron looked at 2 customers, one paying $5 to $10 for a memory module and one paying $60 to $100 for the AI version of the same silicon. And they did what any company would do. They moved the wafers. In December, Micron went further and announced it was leaving the consumer market altogether, retiring Crucial, a brand PC builders had bought from for nearly 30 years to point everything it had at data centers. The 3rd largest memory maker on the planet simply stopped selling to you. It worked spectacularly. In the first 3 months of this year, Samsung and SK hynix, between them, booked around $61.8 billion of operating profit. Both ran operating margins above 70%, which is higher than NVIDIA and higher than TSMC. For one quarter, the most profitable thing in technology was not artificial intelligence software. It was the memory that artificial intelligence needs. And the demand has not finished arriving. In late 2025, OpenAI signed letters of intent with both Korean makers for its Stargate build-out, targeting as much as 900,000 memory wafer starts every month. Analysts put that at up to 40% of the entire planet's memory output aimed at one customer for one purpose, running toward the end of the decade. Every phone, every laptop, every car and console and washing machine is bidding for whatever is left. The obvious answer is that high prices fix high prices. Build more factories, flood the market, prices fall. That is how memory has always worked, and it is precisely what is not happening, for 2 reasons. The first is memory of a different kind. In 2023, this industry had its worst crash in over a decade. Seven-Esquity Hynix posted its first annual loss in 10 years, close to $3 billion, and halved its capital spending. Micron cut about a tenth of its staff. Everyone took away the same lesson, which was never to build into a boom again. So the chain is short, and every link in it is somebody being reasonable. A crash teaches restraint. Restraint meets an artificial intelligence, boom. The boom outbids everybody. And about a year and a half later, a price changes in a shop, thousands of miles from any of it. The second reason is concrete and time. A new memory plant takes roughly 18 to 24 months to build. Then, a year or more to tune the yields, which puts anything broken ground on today into volume production around 2028. Micron announced a $9.3 billion plant this July. It expects production in late 2028, and here is the sting in it. Most of the capacity arriving in 2027 was designed for high bandwidth memory. It was never meant for you. Which brings the bill to you. HP told investors that memory is now about 35% of what it costs to build a PC, up from 15 to 18% a single quarter earlier. Read that again. In 3 months, the dullest component in the machine went from a rounding error to a third of the entire build cost. No manufacturer alive can absorb that. So they passed it on. On the 25th of June, Apple raised prices across nearly its whole lineup. A 13-inch MacBook Air went from $1,099 to $1,299. The cheapest iPad went from $349 to $449. The company's explanation was unusually plain. We have never seen a component price increase this much, this quickly. Apple's shares fell more than 6% that day. Everyone else got there first. Dell put PC prices up 15 to 20% before the end of last year. Lenovo followed in January. In China, Xiaomi's president said certain memory configurations now cost close to 4 times what they did a year earlier. And budget phones are quietly reverting to 4 gigabytes of RAM, a specification from a decade ago. The cheapest devices are the ones that get worse, because at that price, there is nothing left to cut. The forecasts now say something strange. IDC expects the world to buy about 32 million fewer PCs this year, a fall of over 11%, while the total value of the market goes up to around $274 billion. Fewer machines, more money, average selling prices up more than 18%, and Gartner believes the entry level, the sub-$500 laptop that most of the world actually buys, will simply stop existing by 2028. That is the part worth sitting with. Most people on Earth will never buy an artificial intelligence product, never hold a subscription, never type into a chatbot. They are paying for the build-out anyway, in the price of a laptop, a phone, a console, a car. When an industry with enough money decides it wants a shared industrial resource, it does not have to take it from anyone. It only has to outbid them quietly, at the wafer level, 2 years before the rest of us notice at the till. Rationing does not always arrive as a cue. Most of the time it arrives as a price. Prices will come down eventually. Plants get built, boom's cool, and memory has crashed after every boom it has ever had. But the calendar for that now reads 2028, and the people setting it are no longer selling to you. So, if you have been putting off a new machine, that is the honest shape of the answer. Not this year. What I would like to know is whether this has actually changed what you are going to buy or whether you are just going to pay it. Tell me in the comments. And if you like watching a decision in one industry turn up as a price tag in another, that is the whole idea here on Second Order.